change choir, change ensemble, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally for you that are here in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem. And for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, you that are watching us on nationalactionnetwork.net, and certainly those that will be joining us on Impact Television, we are happy to be with you again to give our report for the week on where the action is. Give a hand our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. Our musical director, Minister Tyrone Richardson. Certainly we enjoyed our inspirational word by Reverend Dr. George Blackwell. And we're glad to have our college and youth director with us, Minister Tyleek McMillan. Let me say that we dedicate this broadcast today to the memory of Sister Hester Esau Snipes, who is the mother-in-law of Eric Garner. Many of you know Eric's widow, Esau, lost her mother this week. And she's been here many times with Esau and her grandchildren, and Emerald and Eric Jr. In fact, Eric Jr. was here last week, here just about every week. And so we lost her this week, and she'll be funeralized this week. Let me thank all of you that came out and you that could not come out because of pandemic protocol for the homegoing services for Brother Haru Plunkett. That was this week at Unity, and I did the eulogy. Certainly, National Action Network owes a tremendous amount of gratitude to the long-standing and long-serving work of Brother Haru Plunkett. That's right, give him a big hand. As you look back over life, there are some people that you meet on your journey that make an impression and an imprint on you. And Brother Haru was one of those that you thank God that he and you crossed paths as you went on your journey. Some folks you thank God for. Some folks you ask God why. But the old folk used to sing, you'll understand it better by and by. Now some folk, I ain't got to the by and by yet, I still don't understand. But I thank God for having known and worked and been honored to serve with Brother Haru Plunkett. Let me say that it is imperative that we in the tri-state area understand that as we are dealing with this pandemic, and some of the relief has been taken off in terms of letting you do certain things, don't get irresponsible, because this third wave is going all over the country and will come back here. So I just want folk to be real clear that because we cannot sit out and eat on the sidewalk and try to act like it ain't cold. It's pretty nice today, but I can't understand these folks be sitting out in 30 degrees, ordering a hot meal can't stay hot. I don't know what's wrong with it. I was riding home one night and it was raining. And they were sitting out in the cold, under the rain, holding up an umbrella eating. I said, they ain't never heard of home delivery. But just because New York is partially open and New Jersey is partially open, do not follow the protocols. I wanted to stress that before I go in, because I'm going to get into the election stuff and a lot of stuff, but I want us to be safe. Wear your face mask and be socially distant. Don't do the Donald Trump. Do the right thing. And take care of yourself and your family. I tell folks that come around me, wear your mask in public. If you don't want to wear it for you, you're going to wear it for me or stay away from me. So, I think that, you know, people need to be reminded of that. A lot of churches are virtual, and that's the right thing to do. And those, when we gather, we, even as our rallies, we set the chairs distant and we tell everybody, wear your face mask, because we want people to be responsible. Let me also say that I was happy this week to participate, since we've been doing the book tour of my book, Rise Up. None meant more than this last week, where I did a roundtable with our young people in Huddle. And they had a big turnout, filled the House of Justice, and asked the questions that they wanted of me. And let me tell you something, they're very, very sharp young people coming up in National Action Network. I was telling Brother Malik, Minister Malik, that the whole, Minister Talik, I said Malik, the whole level of consciousness among our young people in our youth department today has been probably the best group of young people in NAN that I've seen in the 29 years. And he is building a college division, many of them working right here with Ashley and Huddle. And one of the reasons that it becomes important is that you build intergenerational. There is and I often talk about this, but it's a reason. Let's welcome Impact TV family watching. I often talk about it, but it can't be stressed enough that you cannot allow our community to be engaged in generational conflict rather than generational continuity. Generations ought to flow from one to the other, not fight from one to the other. And a lot of us get into this trick of generational conflict. And it is a trick of those that want to have fights going on. One of the ways to destroy any people is to get them to destroy themselves. You tear up any organization, any movement, any people, if you can get them to turn on each other. And I think that that's one of the reasons I was so impressed with the young students now in Huddle. All over the country, by the way. A large part of our big march in Washington in August were young people. In fact, in January, the cover of National Geographic magazine, one of the iconic magazines in this country, is doing the, one of their cover photos is going to be the National Action Network's march on Washington August 28th. But one of the things that you get from young people is also we're coming into an age now where young people are asking questions because they really want to see real answers and not just have people playing on their emotions. You know, you go through a season where people just call a march, call a rally, call it this, call it that. But after a while, people start saying, all right, we've done that, now what? And if you don't have a movement that is structured, you will be just as long as you can keep people's emotions going. That's part of what's happened to Donald Trump. Trump has ran on getting a lot of whites to feel that they coming to get me. They coming to get you. If you don't go with me, they gonna come up in the suburbs and drag you out your house, gonna be crime. You better use me to protect you from them, protect you from them. And after a while, that runs out. They ain't coming to get you. In fact, a lot of them is moving into our inner cities with us. Talking about they come to the suburbs, they done coming in the city. But Trump don't know about gentrification. That don't work no more. And if you've got to use fear on the other side to organize, you will never be able to organize. That's why I was saying to the young people at the meeting that there is a difference between organizers and mobilizers. Yes. I want y'all to get this now. Some folk, when there is an issue, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, George Floyd, can mobilize crowds, but they can't organize it. Because once the crowd is there, they can't take them nowhere. The difference between Dr. King's movement, who we come out of NAN, and others was that they mobilized. They get folk all excited. But then they couldn't organize them to change what was going on in the social order. So that's why in NAN, we deal with policy and legislation as well as demonstration. So when we marched August 28th, 200,000 people, and said that we're here to not only deal with all the families, and all the families were there. George Floyd's family, Breonna Taylor's family, Ahmaud Arbery's mom and daddy, everybody there. Eric Garner's mother, everybody. But we're not just here because we mobilize. We're here to organize around passing the George Floyd Policing and Justice Act, passing the John Lewis Act on voter registration, on voter rights. Now, that brings the demonstration into legislation, that brings the mobilization into organization. Where am I going with this? This week in Georgia, because of the strong vote, you're now going to have 2 senatorial runoffs in January. If they win, the Democrats, it gives them the majority in the Senate. And Chuck Schumer, who y'all know come through here all the time, would be the majority leader. Well, we want Schumer and them, if they get the majority, to put the George Floyd bill and the John Lewis bill in front of the Senate and use the majority to bring about legislation. If that is the deal, then it gives us a reason to steal with resources and all in the runoff. See, too many people engage in politics like it's a fan club. People call me, Reverend, you with me? No, I ain't with you. I'm with a legislative agenda. I need you on my side. Well, I got to see if you're on my side. Personality politics is dangerous. And that's what Trump has ruined the Republican Party, because he made it a cult following of personality. It became a personality cult rather than a political party. So they all start bowing to the image of Trump. So what happened, Blackwell, is once Trump started losing, they don't know what to do. Because they're not built now on everything they stood for. They went out the window. I was reading a op-ed piece in this morning New York Times. Evangelicals, a lot of y'all that watch us on Impact know about the evangelical movement. It's very interesting history. Evangelicals made their impact in politics in the 70s with a candidate named Jimmy Carter. It did not start as a right-wing Republican thing. It made its impact with a Sunday school teacher from Plains, Georgia, named Jimmy Carter. And a lot of evangelicals, white evangelicals, supported Jimmy Carter because he represented Sunday school teacher pro-using his faith to do the right thing. That's how we started looking and seeing their involvement. If you go back to the 60s, Charlie, there was the wedding of the church and the movement, which is why Dr. King called the organization he founded after the Montgomery boycott the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So you had in the black community the marriage between faith and movement, and you had in the white community the marriage between faith and doing the right thing. Somewhere along the road, people intercepted and infiltrated and took the movement another way and became a movement that became separate from the black church. And they took the Jimmy Carter influence and ran it into just a movement on 2 or 3 issues that they could politicize, rather than a party that they were going to have a 2-party system. So on the black side, they started preaching against the black church, calling pastors chicken-eating preachers. Well, everybody eat chicken. That's why you got soul food restaurants. Preacher wasn't the only one eating chicken. But if you start building and start proselytizing and start putting in young folks' head that the reason they were getting less than quality education, reason why they couldn't get a job, reason why they weren't doing well is because of chicken-eating preachers. And white government leadership were not responsible. It was the church was in your way. And grandma was dumb for going to church. And daddy and mama were wrong to put you in church. So you begin fighting the institution that your folk built. First institution in America that was built and owned by black folks was the black church. Now I know a lot of our super duper progressives don't want me to say that. So I'll say it again. The first institution owned and operated and controlled by black folk was the black church. When we got out of slavery, we had started our church services under slavery. When we got out, we started building our churches. And it was Richard Allen founding the AME Church and Charles Harrison Mason, Church of God in Christ. Those were the first institutions we controlled. Out of those institutions came historic black colleges. Out of those institutions came black banks and black businesses. Out of those institutions came political candidates, put 22 members, blacks, in Reconstruction in Congress. Because they had their own base. You can't organize your community from other folks' base. Because they will control where it goes. Now, the black church had to keep up with the times. And they infiltrated the black church. And they bought off some in the black church. So as we got into the mid-20th century, they started giving black churches poverty money, daycare money, running you up in debt to break down your power. And one of the missions of this generation must be to liberate and empower again our churches and unite it back with our community. If you have a subsidized church, you're going to have a distorted theology. Because they're going to say, well, I can't talk about that because it'll mess with my funding. Stephen Marshall talking about this week, they went to the NYCHA houses. Well, they need to do something about the budgets with NYCHA and the care for the people in NYCHA. But if you getting housing money, you can't preach about that. Policemen harassing your members. But if you standing up to the cops, mess with your daycare money, you can't preach about that. And to make an excuse about why you ain't preaching, you start attacking me because I'm free enough to say what you won't say. I've had people come here, say, Reverend Al, we need your help. I said, all right, go see the Christ man. My pastor sent me. Go hold it a minute. You go to church? Yeah. You give offering? Yeah. You pay your tithes? Yeah. So you pay your tithes to your pastor and he sent you to me. I'm going to help you, but go back and ask him, why are you tithing? Bringing into the storehouse where the meat's supposed to feed you where you store. We've got to respect the black church, but the black church got to be free to be the black church. And if you're not going to be free, then take down God's name and put up that you're a subsidiary of the city or the state that you're in. But don't use God to subsidize your life. So the evangelicals did the same thing on the white side. They took that Christian-based, civically involved people like Jimmy Carter and said, well, no, we're going to change the politics of it. Because the whole thing now be about anti-abortion, anti-civil rights, anti-gay rights, anti-women's rights. Yeah, we gonna use it all to do that. And they went, starting with the Reagan years, built the moral majority. Like it's moral to discriminate against people. Like it's moral to tell people how they can live. And they became a political force, leaving behind the ethics and the values that they were supposed to represent. And they get all the way till now, where they have supported someone who has no ethics and no morals. Everything they preached against when they started the evangelical movement, Donald Trump represents everything. Every law that they preached and beat you down, he has violated them publicly. Yet the evangelical leaders supported them because they went from belief to politics. And what happened now? You see the evangelical leaders getting busted, getting uncovered. One thing I learned when I was a little boy, when I was a boy preacher, Adam Clayton Powell, I got to be around him for about a year and a half before he retired, went to Birmingham. I was only 12, 13 years old. And one thing Adam Clayton Powell told me that I didn't understand it then because I was very young at that time. So some things you learn over time, Blackwell, that you don't get then. But he told me, he used to call me kid, and I'd ride around, and Jack Packard had a station wagon, and Adam used to ride in, and Odell Clark was his deacon, and Odell was kind of liked me. And they would call me kid. And Adam Clayton Powell told me, kid, as you grow older, you're going to have flaws. You're going to make mistakes. But always be open about your flaws. Because nobody can expose what you don't hide. Now, that didn't mean nothing at 12. Because I wasn't doing nothing that couldn't be exposed other than I might cheat on a math test or something. Y'all laughing because y'all done cheated on some math tests. But as you get older, then you understand that. And what they do is they now are exposing not just the flaws, because we all got flaws. They're exposing that they are doing what they've been preaching against. It's one thing for you to do something. We can forgive that because we all done something. It's another thing if we find out you've been doing what you've been condemning me for doing. Now that's another thing. And that is what's happening now to the evangelical movement. Some of their leaders are being caught with hypocrisy. And at the same time, this vote come up. Now, look at this vote. Joe Biden, who came into national prominence as part of the centrist in the Democratic Party. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm ran for president of the United States, lost to George McGovern, who McGovern was the original progressive wing of the party, white progressive. He went from 72 to 76, where Jimmy Carter won for president and became the Democratic nominee. Now, you'd have thought why did I go back to 72? I want y'all to get this. You would have thought the conservatives, the right wing, would have learned a lesson in 72. Because there's a spiritual interpretation of what happened. What are you talking about, Shelton? 68, Martin Luther King was killed. April 4, 1968. June, Robert Kennedy was killed. 68, same year. There was a movement all over the country around stopping the Vietnam War. I was a kid going from junior high school, and we was marching against the war. There were riots all over the country when they killed Dr. King. In the midst of that mobilization, people mad they killed Dr. King, people mad they killed Kennedy. Nobody organized, and in the lack of organization, that November, Richard Nixon was elected. All of the movement wasn't organized. Conservative come in, Richard Nixon. Nixon, who Kennedy had beaten 60, went on to California and ran for governor and got beat there. He was damaged goods, but he rode in on the crest of white fear. They rioting, they burning down the country. Y'all need me. Law and order. You see, they burning up everything. You need me. They didn't need him in 60. Wouldn't even take him at home in 62. But he came in to save them from seeing the fires burning up stuff. And they voted for him. 72, he ran for re-election. Right back to my point against McGovern. Nixon had the whole country supporting him. But when you know in your internal thoughts that you are not fit to be where you are and that you're insecure, they let McGovern haunt them to the point that they beat themselves. What do you mean by that? Nixon was ahead of every poll, popular and all that, but he knew who he was and who he wasn't. That's right. And it wasn't enough that he was going to win the election. He going to make sure, and they sent some boys to the Watergate Hotel to break in and find out what McGovern was doing to win for president. Let me tell you something. When you are wicked, you can't live with yourself. That's why David said in the 37th Psalm, fret not thyself because of evildoers. You ain't got to be afraid of people wicked. They gonna undo themselves. You know, there was a time people do stuff to me and I think about how we pay them back. I don't think about that no more. Let them alone. Because God will take care of them. That's why the Bible says, vengeance is mine. And God got a way of beating you that I could never beat you anyway. So here's Nixon that played on white backlash and white fear. Let some guys go break into man's hotel who couldn't beat him if he tried to get some stuff out of Watergate. Nixon won. McGovern only won one state out of 50. I mean, what you want to steal his stuff for? But it was the Watergate break-in and lying about it that brought Nixon down. Nixon was impeached for lying about a break-in that he didn't need. Caught up on his own tapes. 76, Jimmy Carter come in. After Jimmy Carter, here come an actor from Hollywood who'd been governor of California, Ronald Reagan. Went through 2 terms of Ronald Reagan. And the McGovern forces that had been defeated, Jimmy Carter had been defeated. 84, Jesse Jackson runs. 88 run again and start building the left wing again of the Democratic Party. A Southern group got together in the Democratic Party called the Democratic Leadership Council. They said, well, we don't want to bring the party too far to the left. Jackson and them has got them too far over there, like McGovern. We're centrist. We a little Republican, but we Democrats. We a little for fighting crime and not fighting police and not giving the poverty money. We a little Republican-like, but we Democrats. The chair of that party, of that group, of the DLC, was the governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton. Partner was Senator from Tennessee, Al Gore. One of the members, Jim, was Joe Biden. They were the centrists of the party. As they went in, Clinton won in '92. One of the ways they won was convincing whites that they were not going to be controlled by the left and by blacks. That's why he did that thing where he jumped on Sister Soldier. That was to prove they don't tell me what to do. 192 put out the crime bill as a result of Lynn Byers, a basketball star, getting killed in the crack epidemic. A lot of black leaders and black caucus supported the crime bill. It wasn't just Biden. And some of us, few of us, stood up and said, wait a minute. This is going to lock up too many people for a long period of time. They called us the wrong side of the party. But as God would have it, where I'm going with this, Talib, is that sometimes things happen so you can affirm who you are. It was not popular in the 90s to stand up to the crime bill. It was not popular to stand up to the welfare reform bill. This all came from the centrist Democrats now, with black leadership support. Hello? Now, but as time went on, and people began seeing their relatives during 20, 30 years for a vial of crack, truth crushed the earth but rise again. If you stand up for what is right, right is going to get the point across sooner or later, whether you like it or not. So I live to see those that were with the crime bill and with the centrists have to turn around and come and deal with us. And as they started trying to find their way back, I ran president in '04. The next election came somebody who was a little more centrist than me, but not all the way with them, and he won, Barack Obama. And he took a centrist man, Joe Biden, to unite the party and made him his vice president, where he brought everybody together. I would sit in the room at meetings and Biden would say, we made mistakes with the crime bill, unintended consequences. And I saw as it changed and saw as he began to understand that we were not out of line. We were trying to keep them in line. Same time, young black lady come out of an HBCU school in Howard University named Kamala Harris, raised by a single mama. Went to law school and became the DA in San Francisco, Attorney General of California. She was trying to calibrate between these laws. But that's why you can't go by just the daily paper. You got to read the time. All of this was happening at the same time. Then Obama came in, Affordable Care Act, and dealing with mass incarceration. At the same time we're making these moves here, the evangelicals have kidnapped the Republican right. But what do they need? They need another Hollywood figure. They need a star. Why do they need a star? Where they get that from, Sharpton? Because that's what Ronald Reagan was. And the way they took evangelicals from Jimmy Carter kind of way is they brought a Hollywood star. They went to Central Casting and got them a star. And Ronald Reagan, who used to be a cowboy in the movies, had the charisma to attract people. So here we are now in 2013-14. Obama done start moving the country back toward dealing with some civil rights and some police reform and letting folk out of jail. Right here, National Action Network, Hardy and them negotiated commutations. We're moving back on track. And the evangelicals need a star. So they go to Hollywood this time. They went to television and got the star of The Apprentice. Who had never run for nothing, never read nothing, wouldn't know policy if it was on the pillow while he was sleeping. But he had star power. Millions watched him on The Apprentice. He was perfect because he didn't believe in nothing, so they could tell him, this is what you believe in. Wasn't like he had to be converted. He wasn't converted in the first place. So you ain't got to change somebody that don't believe in nothing. And he became a symbol for them. And the party of the Republicans went from a political party till it became a cult of his personality. What they wanted was to reverse this trajectory that I told you that had started back in the 80s all the way through. What did they get for it? Well, they got 3 people put on the Supreme Court. They got 200 federal judges. They got prosecutors all over the country. Now Trump is bouncing off walls in the White House. They don't care about that. He served their purpose. And we're sitting up here, 3 days out, counting votes, worried about where it's going to go. Trump in the White House talking about fraud and they can't find none. Talking about they're going to do this and that and they can't find nothing. And the centrist that had run away from us is now standing up there with a black woman by his side. About to bring this thing back another way. That's why I kept marching and kept going and kept agitating. And those that would tell me, why don't y'all stop? Why don't y'all give up? But I read when I was a little boy in Sunday school, those that wait on the Lord. They would call me. I've been NBC every night doing commentaries and all about the election. They talk about this taking too long. How long you think this is going to be, Real Mal? They keep voting Pennsylvania late, Georgia late, North Carolina late. It's too long. I said, but yeah, it might be long to you. Yeah. But if you had to wait 400 years to even drink a cup of coffee at a 5 and 10 cent store, if you had to wait 400 years to be able to legally marry your wife, if you had to wait 400 years to be able to name your children after you, I can wait a few days. I've been waiting a long time. A few days won't matter. when Trump was elected. I tried, Blackwell, to figure out what was this spiritually. I know Donald Trump, 35 years. Know he was big. Fought him for that brother right there, Central Park fight. Why would this happen? How could this happen? It took me days to even believe he really won. I kept going to sleep, waking up, saying they're gonna tell me it was a mistake. You know, you get into bed and close your eyes real tight and then wake up and say, tell me it was a lie. I hit the remote TV, say, nope, he really president. I go back to sleep. Could this happen? But Reverend Stephen Marshall went to the book. Any good preacher hardly goes to the book when he can't figure nothing out. And there was, I want you to take out this because there's something in the book of Job that explains to me where we at. Go.
Job 9:1.
Job 9:1, start.
Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied, have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything that he has?
Now, Job was a righteous man. Job had done everything God told him to do. And the devil and God was having a conversation. Y'all read the whole scripture, 8 chapters well. Satan and God was having a conversation. And Satan said, you know, I bet you I can do more than you think I can do. And God said, have you tried my servant Job? Can you imagine you in the middle of a bargaining between God and the devil and you don't even know it? Why would God let Satan mess with Job? One, it tests Job. But the other thing is it shows Satan you ain't got all the power you think you got. Try my servant Job. Why? Because I know what Job feels. I know what he believes. I hear his prayers every morning. Go ahead.
You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face.
You gave him everything. Made him prosperous. Blessed his labor. Where he's got wealth, he got money, got everything he wants. But I bet you if you take it away, he'll curse you. Read.
The Lord said unto Satan, very well then, everything he has in your power, but the man himself do not lay a finger.
You can have everything he has, but you can't touch his soul. Now what is your point here, Sharpton? You had everything. Black president, black first lady, 2 black girls growing up in the White House, letting folk out of jail, standing up against police brutality. You had everything, and you stopped marching. You stopped standing up. You stopped organizing. You stopped building businesses. You forgot who you was. And God let Satan use something to test you. Said, all right, I'm going to take all that from you. I'll let Trump come in. I'm going to take what you got. And Satan said, I bet you if I bring them back down to a bigot in the White House, they'll curse you and turn from you. But some of us, like Job, wouldn't turn on God. Keep reading.
Verse 13, one day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the older brother's house.
His children were eating and drinking wine at The oldest one's house.
A messenger came.
Some of us got children drink a little wine every now and then.
A messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing, and the donkeys were grazing nearby. And the Sabians attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to sword, and I am the only one who escaped to have told you. While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said,
This is the second message.
the fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up all the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who has escaped.
All right, now you done lost this, now you done lost the sheep. Your money's gone. Go ahead.
Verse 17, while he still was speaking, another messenger came and said, the Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them as well.
Your camel's gone.
They put the servants to sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you. Verse 18, while he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at your oldest son's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck down the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them.
Now you lost all your herd, you lost all your cattle, you lost all your sheep, and now your children was in the house. And the house went down and killed all your children.
Verse 20, at this time, Job got up, tore off his robe, and shaved his head, then fell to the ground and worshiped and said, naked I came into the world from my mother's womb, and naked I shall depart. And the Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Verse 22, in all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing.
He lost everything. Stripped down to nothing. Broke. Used to be wealthy. No heirs to whatever he would have had. They all dead. And the reaction was not to turn on God. The reaction was not to turn on the church like some of y'all did the black church. The reaction was that he fell on his knees and said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. You read on where his own wife said, you're shameful now, you're disgraceful now. They're laughing at us now. We used to be big shots. Now we're nobody. We used to go to the White House. Now Trump got barricades built up all over town. Why don't you just curse God and die? He said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to wait for my change to come. I know some of y'all are tired of waiting on the vote count. I know y'all talking about why don't they end this? But I think about George Floyd. I think about Breonna Taylor. I think about Ahmaud Arbery. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to sit right here and wait for my change to come. For the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. One of the young folk asked me, through it all, through all the years you've been out here, why haven't you ever backed up? Why haven't you ever got dismayed? And I thought about that song, Crank It Up For Me. I thought about the song, lyrics start, why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely? When heaven and long for heaven and home. When Jesus is my portion. A constant friend is he. Reason I never gave up. Reason I never backed down. Is I always knew his eyes was on the sparrow. I know, I'm not guessing, I know. When nobody was on my side, I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow. I know he watches me.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why why should my heart be lonely and long for